It was only November 3rd when the Murdochs decided to pull out their tangled mess of Christmas lights from the garage. The leaves were still orange and gold, and pumpkins from Halloween sat sagging on porches. But Melissa Murdoch had one philosophy. Early lights meant early joy. Her husband Tom wasn't as enthusiastic, but he went along. Their teenage kids rolled their eyes, claiming no one else in the neighborhood cared about lights this early. But Melissa had a vision, an explosion of twinkling reds, greens, and golds that would put the neighborhood on the map. By nightfall, the Murdochs' yard was aglow, Santa's sleigh inflated proudly on the roof, and their giant Merry Christmas Y'all sign flashed like a neon casino. The smell of pumpkin pie from the kitchen mixed with the jingling bells from a motion-activated reindeer. By morning, the first HOA violation notice had arrived. The letter was printed on expensive stationery, sealed with the HOA crest like some royal decree. Violation 47A, unauthorized seasonal displays prior to November 25th. Fine, $250 per day until compliance. Melissa laughed. $250 a day for lights? But the HOA president, Gerald Winters, wasn't joking. Known as the Grinch of Oakwood Estates, Gerald thrived on nitpicking rules, mailbox paint shades, grass length, even the angle of recycling bins. And now, Christmas lights were his battlefield. But Melissa wasn't one to back down. We didn't know it yet, but that flick of the switch would ignite the greatest neighborhood rebellion Oakwood had ever seen. The Murdochs refused to take the lights down. By day 3, the fines had ballooned to $750. By the end of the week, $750. Tom began pacing around the living room with a calculator. At this rate, Gerald's going to repossess our car. Melissa, sipping hot cocoa, waved him off. You can't put a price on holiday spirit. But Gerald could, and he was preparing his next move. One evening, a group of neighbors gathered in the Murdochs' driveway, drawn by the lights like moths to a flame. Kids danced under the snowflake projectors, and parents snapped photos. That's when the idea was born. What if we all put lights up, said their neighbor Cindy, clutching her peppermint latte. What can Gerald do if everyone joins in? The idea spread like wildfire. The Johnsons strung lights across their roof. The Lees set up a nativity scene. The Rodriguez family went all out with a 12-foot inflatable snowman that swayed ominously in the wind. By the following week, Oakwood Estates looked like the North Pole had exploded. Every house sparkled. Every house except Gerald's, which remained dark, his windows glaring at the rebellion. The fines multiplied. Letters piled up. Gerald, furious, called an emergency HOA board meeting. Melissa received an official summons, accusing her of inciting decorative anarchy. Tom whispered to her before she entered the meeting. Please, Melissa, just apologize and end this. But Melissa wasn't about to bow down. This was bigger than lights now. This was war. Melissa Murdoch had never thought of herself as a leader. PTA meetings made her anxious, and she usually preferred to be in the background at community events. But now, standing on her lawn with the glow of thousands of Christmas lights bouncing off the frost, she felt something stir. Her neighbors gathered around, buzzing with energy. Cindy from next door waved a notebook like a general preparing for battle. If Gerald wants to play dirty, then we need a plan. We can't just wing this. They formed what quickly became known as the Holiday Defense Council. Melissa was voted chairwoman, despite her protests. Cindy became communications director, which really meant she ran a Facebook group called Oakwood Lights of Freedom. The dads volunteered ladders, floodlights, and engineering skills. The neighborhood teenagers offered to design graphics and blast memes of Gerald's scowling face photoshopped onto the Grinch's body. The rebellion spread house by house. One evening, the Johnsons unveiled a synchronized light show that blinked in time with Jingle Bell Rock. Cars pulled over to watch. The Lees set up a mechanical nativity scene where baby Jesus waved at passersby like a parade float. The Rodriguez family went viral with their 12-foot inflatable snowman holding a sign, "Merry Finas Mas, Gerald?" The more Gerald scowled, the more the neighbors doubled down. Local reporters showed up, cameras rolling, interviewing Melissa as if she were the commander of a suburban resistance movement. She gave sound bites like, "Christmas is about joy, not bureaucracy," and "We're not backing down from bullies with clipboards." Evenings turned into block parties. Cars from other towns lined the streets, bringing cookies and cocoa just to see the spectacle. Strangers walked through Oakwood like it was a winter carnival, their breath visible in the chilly air as they marveled at the lights. Inside his darkened, undecorated house, Gerald Winters fumed. He typed furious emails to the HOA board at 3 a.m., threatening lawsuits, police intervention, and permanent expulsion for violators. But his neighbors ignored him. For the first time, Oakwood Estates wasn't afraid. Operation Christmas. Lights had taken on a life of its own, and Gerald knew he was losing control. Gerald wasn't about to let a neighborhood mutiny ruin his legacy. As HOA president, he had ruled Oakwood Estates with an iron fist for 12 years. No mailbox went unpainted, no lawn unmowed without consequence. If he lost this battle, his reign would crumble. So one cold evening in mid-November, Gerald made his move. 3 black SUVs rolled into Oakwood at dusk, their tinted windows reflecting the glow of holiday lights. Out stepped 6 men in black uniforms, private security guards he had hired with HOA funds. They wore earpieces and heavy boots, moving in formation like a suburban SWAT team. Residents gawked as the guards marched down the sidewalks, posting signs that read, HOA Order 12B. Unauthorized decorations will be removed. One guard carried a toolbox. Another had bolt cutters. A third began snapping photos of inflatables and extension cords like evidence at a crime scene. Cindy gasped when one guard unplugged her candy cane lights without asking. "Hey, those are mine!" she shouted. Her kids started booing, chanting, "Grinch, Grinch, Grinch!" The neighborhood erupted into chaos. Parents shouted. Teens recorded videos for TikTok. Someone blasted, "You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch," from their speakers so loudly the ground seemed to vibrate. Melissa stormed forward, planting herself in front of her glowing nativity scene. "You can't just walk onto private property and unplug things. That's trespassing," one guard sneered. "HOA rules give us permission." "Wrong," Melissa shot back. "The Constitution gives me permission." Her neighbors cheered. One by one, families stepped out of their houses, linking arms along their yards in a glowing chain of solidarity. Cars honked in support. Children held handmade signs, "Save Christmas" and "Stop the Grinch." Outnumbered, the guards hesitated. They muttered into their earpieces, exchanged glances, then slowly retreated to their SUVs. The crowd erupted in victory cheers, singing "Deck the Halls" as the headlights faded into the night. From his window, Gerald watched the humiliation unfold. His counterattack had failed. His face burned red with fury. If the neighborhood thought this was over, they were wrong. He would take the fight to court. 2 weeks later, the case made headlines. Oakwood Estates HOA versus Melissa Murdoch. The county courthouse overflowed with spectators. Reporters lined the steps, cameras flashing. Melissa walked in wearing a red Christmas sweater with sequined reindeer, antlers, surrounded by neighbors in matching outfits that read, "Free the lights." The crowd chanted her name as if she were running for office. Gerald strutted in moments later, his suit crisp, his green tie chosen deliberately to look festive. But his expression betrayed nothing but disdain. The judge, a weary man with salt and pepper hair, sighed as he read the complaint. Gerald argued that early decorations violated HOA bylaws and undermined community order. He spoke like a dictator defending his empire, calling the lights visual pollution, and Melissa an instigator of anarchy. Melissa rose, her voice steady but passionate. "Your Honor, this isn't about rules. It's about community. These lights have brought people together. Neighbors who barely waved at each other now share cocoa, laughter, and friendship. That's what a neighborhood should be." Her words drew nods from the courtroom. Witness after witness testified. A shy widow who said the lights made her feel less lonely. Kids who presented hand-drawn pictures of Santa defeating the HOA Grinch. Even a local pastor who called it a miracle of unity. The judge leaned back, tapping his gavel against the bench. "Mr. Winters," he said slowly, "I believe your HOA has overreached. Homeowners do not surrender their rights to private enjoyment. The case is dismissed." The courtroom erupted in cheers. Neighbors hugged Melissa, chanting, "Victory, victory." Reporters rushed forward, microphones extended. Gerald stormed out, his legacy in shambles. Oakwood Estates had won. That night, Oakwood glowed brighter than ever. At exactly 7 p.m., every house flipped on its lights in unison. Thousands of bulbs shimmered. Music blasted. Fireworks lit up the cold December sky. The streets turned into a festival. Kids rode bikes, wrapped in tinsel. Parents danced with mugs of cocoa in hand. Cars clogged the roads, honking in celebration. The air was thick with the smell of gingerbread, laughter, and victory. Melissa stood on her porch, overwhelmed. She had expected fines, maybe even defeat, but never this. A neighborhood united, stronger than before. Tom slipped an arm around her shoulders, grinning. "You know, Mel, you might have just started a revolution." She smiled. "Not me. Us. All of us." Even Gerald's house, once the lone dark fortress, flickered with light. His wife, tired of the shame, had quietly hung a modest row of icicle lights across the eaves. Gerald sulked in his armchair, but the neighborhood erupted in cheers anyway. For once, Oakwood's Grinch had been outvoted, not by bylaws, but by joy. From that year on, a new tradition was born. Every November 3rd, Oakwood Estates lit up early. Families called it Freedom Day, a holiday all their own, and as snowflakes drifted gently down that night, the lights twinkled not just with Christmas cheer, but with the proof that even the smallest rebellion, sparked by a single strand of lights, could shine brighter than control. Oakwood Estates would never be the same.